Okay, in this video I'm going to do a brief tutorial of what to do when your lawnmower attempts to start like this. Or, in this case, doesn't attempt. First thing we're going to do is remove our air cleaner cover and realize that our air cleaner is pretty dirty. A lot of debris in there. So first we'll start by taking that off, see if that's enough to change anything. Okay, so we got further in the process. So now, just by simply removing the dirty, really clogged air cleaner, we've realized we have got some flow. Now, I've already diagnosed this unit, so I'm not going to go ahead further. I can tell you that the fuel cell is pretty contaminated, and we're going to go ahead and show you how to clean the carburetor here and remove the fuel cell as well, so you know what to do. If this occurs on your unit, you can then fix it. So bear with me, I'm going to have all my tools here and then we'll get started. Okay, to perform this repair, you're going to need a 7mm, 8mm, your favorite pair of pliers. I like these 45 degrees. I like to use a fuel line clamp to restrict the flow. We use gum cutter 2+2, and to make it a little faster, we have our impact wrench. So you're going to start with 8mm. I start with 8 because you need 7 right after you get this cover off again. So there's 8mm there. There's going to need 8mm there. Then remove that socket. We go to 7mm. These are the two that screw into the actual carburetor body itself. This is actually one of the most common ones we clean. They are very picky against ethanol. They hate ethanol. So inside here we got a good bit of grass build up here. So now what we're going to do is take our line clamp off the fuel supply because there is some fuel left in the tank. Then we take our pair of 45 needle nose, release the fuel line clamp from the unit. Once we release the clamp here, you can then break the rubber rust, which is basically the rubber corrosion where the plastic adheres to the carburetor body from being on for so long. Alright, so now that's broken free. Now basically there's no more bolts here. You just pull gently, make sure you don't rip anything. Now that we got that off of the rear intake portion, we still have to get this line off, which that's a pretty small line, so it makes it kind of tight. Not really much room for it to move or flex. There, we got the line off. Now hopefully you can see this on the camera. There's an S linkage for the automatic choke here. You have to rotate the carb about 90 degrees up to release that S and that linkage. And then once you do that, you got this other S linkage over here, and you then rotate the degrees clockwise to release that S linkage. That will remove your carb body. If you take note here, we got all kinds of buildup and debris around that carb. So now, why we use 7mm last and not first is because the two bolts on the bottom here are also 7mm. Then you can take them out. Now, this doesn't just fall off, it's a sealed bowl system, so we then take our pair of 45, and right inside this groove here, you can see we kind of try to use our pliers to separate the seal a little bit, and then same on the other side. You go inside that groove and separate it. I'm going to put this down. I'll try to do this on camera for you guys. And when you separate this, we'll be able to, if you do it carefully, you can actually retain the fuel in there, which I don't think I'm going to do because I'm trying to do it on camera, and see if you can't determine the actual issue in which was causing, there we go, which was causing the unrunnability. So let's see. You look inside the fuel here. Oh shit. There's really no obvious buildup there. It does look like it might be stale, if anything. I can't really tilt it because of the screen. I'm going to set that down. The main thing inside this carburetor body that gets dirty is going to be in this particular main nozzle system. So we have to grab our pliers again. We take the retaining pin out of here. Gently just pull that off to the side, and then that'll allow you to get the float bowl, or the float. This is the hinge pin. This is your float, and that is your needle that fell off of the float. So now we take this, I grab it right here, and I gently pull back and forth and pull up at the same time, because you don't want to bust it. As well as there's a BB inside of here, right inside of there, and yeah, basically I've popped them out a time or two. I've seen them popped out, but this is the whole culprit of what gets dirty. You can see some ethanol build up varnish around the top case there, but primarily it's going to be that hole, which you can kind of see some light through, but you have to take your carb solution. The straw fits perfectly. I think they did this for a reason. You then spray through there, put your finger over one, and you'll see that we got a squirt coming out of that top portion. We then cover the top portion and get it out of the bottom portion, and then we do the same thing. We just repeat the process. Get one out of there, you got flow there, and then just confirm that flow went the whole way through this unit. Then you have one more here. It's going to be this one. You're going to get a little bit of squirt up in between the two separations there. You can kind of see it coming right out of there. As long as you got flow through all them, and then you clean that off real good, you will be good to go. So that is basically the main reason these carburetors get dirty. So that's what you do there. And then to put this back together, basically, if you're looking at your carburetor body like this, you're going to look at your in your main jet. That rubber seal on the top goes in the uppermost portion of the carburetor. It's a raised up inside there. I don't know if you can see it or not, but right on the top side there's a nipple that's raised up. That rubber O-ring has to be facing to be inserted into that female portion of the raised side inside this nozzle. It will only go one way. Same thing with the bowl. Alright, I'm going to get that seated and we'll come back. Okay, so now I actually had to clean all the rest of this inside. We basically sprayed out inside here, got all the varnish out of there. We then sprayed through all of our ports here. We got 3 in there, 1 down here by that shiny thing that goes out of the couple here. Just spray all them good and clean. Then you got to take your main nozzle. Like I said, stick the rubber facing up. You'll see or hear it kind of depress and click in. Make sure you don't get any debris in there. Once you got that there, you get your needle, sit it down in that retainer just like so. Then place that back down into the needle seat, and then you got to take your float hinge pin and you come in the one side like so, and then make sure your float's aligned, and then you get it started. And we like to use a little pick tool here to just go the rest of the way in with it. You can use your needle nose as well, that works just fine. This just gives us a little bit more access. So now you gotta make sure that this pin here stays down here as well as there. I've seen them pop up on one side and cock that float in there wonky. So now just clean off any little bit more of debris. Make sure it doesn't go in the tank or in the carb. Nice and clean. Take your bowl. Notice there's an indent on the bottom of that bowl there. That has to go a certain way so it clears this main jet. So you look at the indent, and then you'll take note that the indent goes towards the away from the fuel inlet. So it would go on like this. So before I do that one more time, just gonna make sure we got all that out of there. And then, so now we got our inlet on. Stick that right there. And then same thing, make sure it's lined up. And you can kind of tell when it's back. Well, first off, it'll be flush. And once you're sure you got it lined up, get your 7mm bolts. The ones that are longer are the ones that go on the bottom of the bowl. These ones also have a larger flat retainer around the base. I'd say we just start them with our drill, and then we get our wrench. We get our manual wrench so we can confirm how tight we make it. You just want to snug them up. Be mindful you're putting stainless steel screws into plastic. So a good snug fit. The bowl gasket does all the sealing. Don't worry about the bolts for that. Just make sure they're in there nice and snug so nothing backs out. Then give me a second, we'll get back to putting this back on. Okay, so take note of this rubber O-ring and plastic seal. A lot of times this will get stuck on the intake manifold like it did in our situation, like so. So pull it directly off there. This actually belongs back inside of there the same way it came out. So the rubber O-ring goes first, then the plastic retainer goes second. I always put them back on the carb body so I can assure that they went in seated properly, then relying on it being seated properly here. Since there's no bolts to do it, you seat it here, and then you go back in, same exact order. You gotta go throttle, or this is, actually, yeah, this would be throttle linkage first, so you gotta go 9 o'clock back to 12 o'clock, S. And then you gotta go front to back. So then you rotate the clock per se. And then bam, all like so. Then you just make sure everything's in this groove, push it on, and pull your breather hose out, and go. Now it is good. So now I'm going to leave my fuel line off at the moment. So that's going to be the end for this video. Then you just simply put your two 8mm back in here, and then your 7mm here. We always replace them when they get this bad. Replace your air filter, clean it out if you don't have a new one. Put a link in the description below for that if you want. And then check out the next video here. The next video we're going to show you how to get this tank off because there's a lot of crap in here. So that's one of the reasons. I don't know if you can see it or not, but there's a bunch of crap down in there. That's the reason that this thing probably got dirty and a bunch of grass and whatnot. So check out this next video here. We're going to be removing this air shrouding so we can then get to this tank. We'll put a link in the description below. We'll probably put a bunch of them up top of the video log, somewhere up in here or that corner. I don't know which corner yet. I'm still learning this crap. Alright guys, peace, thanks, be blessed.